Think for yourself. Question authority.
What's up, guys? We are here. How you all doing in the chat? How you like my new lighting setup I have here? It's a little bit even more blue, if you can imagine. Really cool stuff going on in the world of Nintendo and with the Switch and the new Switch coming and all that good stuff. So let me know if you can hear me in the chat, okay? But yeah, I got new LED lights, even more powerful, on the floor now, and I got them in the back area there too. It really lights up the room here pretty well. So we have a lot to talk about. Hopefully the internet I have here holds up. I might have to refresh a few times, but we'll see. But anyway, so there was a report today coming out of Taiwan. And by the way, if it's your first time here, thanks for coming by. Hit the like button. If it's your first time coming to a live stream here, what I do is I tend to talk first and then share my thoughts on everything, because I have a lot on my mind, of course, when I do these live streams. So I want to share my thoughts on the situation, everything like that. So if you can't stay for too long and you need to send me a super chat or something to get my attention, or if you need to tell me something real quick or ask me a question, I will be looking at the chat. But I'll try to answer questions later on, definitely. So try to save your questions for now, and we're gonna get into the information because I have a lot to say, and then we'll talk about it. So Nintendo, there has been not much going on in 2020, as we know. COVID-19 and all the stuff going on with that has been really bad, and it's been a really off year overall. For Nintendo, not of course reported sales wise for the Switch. People are buying, they want to buy games right now and everything, and we got next generation starting on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and everything, and Xbox Series S. So there's plenty of games to play and everything. Not much on the Switch though, in my opinion. I mean, for me, I don't know about you. Let me know what you guys are playing in the chat on the Switch. But what I played on the Switch so far in 2020 has been Streets of Rage 4, which is a third-party game, and I played Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I have that. I have Crysis Remastered, great port. What else have I played? Not much else. Of course, we have the Super Mario 3D collection. I already own those games. I wasn't really interested in buying it right now. I think I'll pick it up later, to be honest with you. I wasn't excited to buy it day one or anything. But I will pick it up eventually. The Witcher in the chat, I see that. We had Paper Mario Origami King, and I'm not interested in that game at all. Looks very boring. What else do we got? Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which is a remake of the Wii U game, or not a remake, a remaster of the Wii U game, or port of the Wii U game. It's the same thing, pretty much. Already played that years ago. Hyrule Warriors, Calamity, it's just not my thing, really. Those Mushu games, those Musu games, whatever you want to call them. I have 24 videos of Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U on this channel. If you look back, I have a playlist way back, I think in 2014. I played through the entire game. I have 24 videos, like 24 different parts of it. And I got my full fill of Hyrule Warriors to the death. Like, I was just like, I want to see what this game's about, and I went all in on it, and I liked it. But I have to admit, the games get extremely, and I mean extremely, repetitive. The longer you get into them, they're really fun at first, and if you love those kind of games, more power to you. That's great. Congratulations. Those type of games just aren't quite for me. I like more in-depth combat in my games like that, like Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Ghost of Tsushima. More in-depth combat, more challenging combat. Those games are just really, really easy. Those big hack and slash, million guys on the screen type of games, those warrior games. Nothing wrong with the games though. If you like them, fantastic. Enjoy the new Hyrule Warriors coming out. Not made by Nintendo. Keep in mind that it's made by Koei Tecmo. So it's not even a first-party Nintendo game. It's a third-party game using Nintendo's IP, which makes it pretty much the first time since the Switch came out that Nintendo was not filling the holiday season with a first-party big AAA game. And I do think Nintendo has called it quits on 2020. I think they called it quits on 2020 back in September when they announced Hyrule Warriors was coming out November 20th. I think they're taking a pass on 2020. I think that confirms it. And letting PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X do their big launches. And as far as big releases are concerned, Nintendo is going to push all that stuff to 2021. And I think that's where you're going to see all the big games. And if you look at the third-party games on the Switch that have been delayed, I've been keeping track of them. It's been a lot. Now, we don't have confirmation yet, but Doom Eternal and Bravely Default may have been also delayed to 2021 as well. They better announce them quick, right? We have 2 months left in the year. They better announce something quick and get them out before the end of the year, or else it's not happening. So there was a rumor that I didn't post quite yet on Twitter from a retailer in Australia that listed Doom Eternal and Bravely Default 2 on the Switch for 2021 releases, even Q2 2021. So retailers may know something that's not public yet. Those games may be pushed back to 2021, and that would join, keep this in mind, that would join, if that's true, if Doom Eternal and Bravely Default 2 are delayed, that would join the other games that have been delayed as well, which would be No More Heroes 3, and also they would also be joining No More Heroes 3, X3, which is a port remake game from the original, and also that would join some other games as well. Let's see what else has been delayed recently. Harvest Moon has been delayed too. Also Apex Legends has been delayed, and so yeah, lots of delays on the Switch in terms of software is concerned. So basically what's happening here is that lots of these games are being pushed to 2021, and we just don't know exactly what's going on there as far as those releases are concerned. But for them to be missing the holiday season when Nintendo doesn't have any first-party games to fill the holiday season, then you got to think something's up there, right? So let's see, just 1 second here. All right, I just refreshed a little bit there. It was getting a little bit low on the bit rate. Hopefully that is okay. So basically, Nintendo doesn't have anything filling the holiday season. They've skipped the holiday season with their first parties. AAA third parties skipping the holiday season for the Switch. They're moving everything to 2021. And of course, we have these reports of a new Switch coming in 2021, in the first quarter of 2021. You're seeing the pattern here, right? So, what's going on here? Are they moving their games to this new Switch hardware in early 2021 to take advantage of the sales of that new system? Or are they waiting for something else? Or are they really that badly far behind from the pandemic? It could be all those things combined, right? They could be moving all those things to to next year because of that, not just because of COVID, but also because of the delays in the process. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Erica. Appreciate it. The Switch is reported today that the Deluxe is having their a partnership with Nintendo to have their screens use the mini LEDs for this new Switch. So what I want to do is show you guys what this what the LED minis are, or the mini LEDs are, if I can, if this will let me. So 1 second here. Trying to adjust stuff. I wish things were perfect on the internet side, but you know, what can you do? Let's see. So I have a video here. And it is explaining mini LEDs.
Difference is due to the fact that OLEDs have a very high contrast ratio because individual pixels can be turned completely off, producing deep blacks without light bleed from nearby bright objects. Non-OLED TVs, on the other hand, rely on backlighting that is always turned on. To create images then, an LCD layer in front of the backlight selectively blocks the light in different areas of the switch off in certain areas of a screen where the image is dark or black. And local dimming can definitely help, but it is far from a perfect solution. You see, TVs that have this feature typically have their backlight split into zones that dim or turn off as a group. But for the effect to work well, you need lots and lots of zones, which means lots of LEDs, adding cost, heat, and power consumption. That's where mini LEDs come in. Thanks to some recent technological advances, LEDs have not only become more efficient, but also smaller, which is exactly the idea behind a mini LED display. Mini LEDs are often less than 1/10 of a millimeter across, meaning that you can fit many more of them in the backlight layer of a TV, allowing much smaller zones of lighting control. To put this in context, a traditional local dimming TV from the last couple of years might have dozens or maybe a few hundreds of zones, while these recently released mini LED displays from ASUS and TCL have about 1,000 individual zones. This should help them do a much better job of preventing that blooming effect that you sometimes see with local dimming, where bright objects in a dark scene have this aura or halo glowing around them because the zone that's lighting the bright object is simply too large to be confined to the area where it's supposed to be. Of course, mini LED is a newer technology right now, so you can expect to pay more for it, but it's well positioned to be more affordable than OLED, especially after the early adopter tax wears off. And with micro LED being quite a ways off from hitting the mass consumer market due to high costs and manufacturing complexity, mini LED looks to be an appealing option to tide us over until then. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go to Tim Hortons because I've got a sudden hankering for some mini donuts.
Okay, so so the interesting thing is that the LED Mini or Mini LED by Deluxe, I might just make a video, by Deluxe is actually being reported as being made for this new Switch. And the interesting thing about that is that there's something that I found regarding that. And let's see if I can put this up here. You see this right here? I looked back in 2016. Sharp and Deluxe actually had a deal back then in 2016 to work together, and Sharp and Deluxe were going to focus on IGZO and OLED screens. This is actually new info I didn't even realize. So what I tweeted out earlier today is that I assumed that Nintendo was canceling their deal with Sharp and just going with Deluxe, and then but apparently I didn't realize that they actually are working with Sharp already. So them using mini LEDs actually does not cancel out IGZO technology from being used in this new Switch for the screen. So that's kind of interesting that I figured that I found this out earlier today, that this was actually the case, that they actually are partnered with Deluxe, Sharp. So basically what that would mean is that Deluxe would be providing the actual display technology themselves, not the technology, but the actual displays themselves, the actual screen and everything like that, the mini LED itself. And Sharp could theoretically be still providing the actual technology in the screen, which would be the IGZO technology in the screen to make it do its power saving advantages that it has. So that's kind of interesting when you think about it. That's not something that was reported on. So that is pretty cool. And so that doesn't actually rule out them still having an exo display technology being used in this new Switch, just with them using Deluxe instead of just, Sharp straight up. They could be using Deluxe using Sharp's exo technology. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, so that is pretty neat. Pretty neat indeed. So anyway, now that was the interesting thing that I found out about this information today, is that could be happening. Now, they are talking about a next generation Switch as well. In that information, they said a next generation Switch. So I think I have a picture of that too. I tweeted it out earlier. They also said next gen Switch in this report. Nintendo has recently begun preparations for the production of a next generation Switch to be launched next year, planning to introduce the most popular mini LED display technology to come to Taiwan to find Deluxe to supply it. Then it says breaking the previous Switch from Sharp and Japan Display Corporation, two major Japan manufacturers supplying displays. But there could be some confusion there, like I said, in reporting this. Who knows? Because Sharp and Deluxe work together, so it could be one and the same. This new exo technology. So that is pretty interesting when you think about it. I did tweet this out. Follow me on Twitter. You can see this information there. They did say next generation Switch. So that would make it, I think, the third time it's been referred to as a next generation Switch this year. So it was referred to by the other Taiwan production, Foxconn, that leaked the information in August that this was a next generation Switch. And then it was also talked about by developer Monster Boy when a customer said, "Hey, do I need to upgrade? I have the Switch version. Can I upgrade? I have to upgrade from the PS4. I got to go buy the PS4 version to get the PS5 upgrade." They said, "Hold on a second. Just maybe there's next generation technology in this Switch, or for Nintendo for the Switch." They referred to as a next generation device. You had Ed Boon tweeting out about possibilities of next generation devices, and he mentioned Switch 2. And then you have this report talking about a next generation Switch as well. Everything saying early 2021. And then you also had in that original Taiwan report, they said next generation Switch 3 times in that report. So, it's interesting seeing the information out there lately, or at least today. People are saying, "Hey, is the Switch revision or Switch Pro rumors are those rumors dead?" But there was never any actual Switch Pro or Switch revision rumors. It was always actually a reported on as like a next generation Switch. So that's what it's been referred to since 2019. It was first referred to as a Switch Pro, and then it was referred to a next generation Switch. And we are going to talk about Metroid Prime 4. I just had to make sure my internet stays up here. So next generation Switch has been what's been referred to. Of course, there's been lots of speculation by people that who don't want to believe it's a next generation Switch. They think it's too soon. They say no, it's not possible. But you got to remember, this is the same company that released the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo Wii, and the DS came out 3 years into the lifespan of the very hot selling Game Boy Advance, which was in its prime. And the DS still came out and sold like amazing. And Nintendo just has a Switch right now. So them having multiple different tiers of the Switch makes a lot of sense. They have one ecosystem of Switch consoles right now with the Switch Lite and the original Switch that has about over 65 million consoles sold so far. The DS sold over 150 million and the Wii sold over 100 million. So if they introduce a new next-gen Switch in 2021, they have a potential to sell something similar to those type of things, having multiple different tiers of different systems to provide for the consumer. It makes business sense that they would try to get back to that aspect of what they were doing years ago, selling all those different types of devices to the consumer. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat really quick. Yep. So, Metroid Prime 4 and a crispy new display, 4K visuals. Yeah, well, I don't think native 4K is going to happen, but 4K upscaling, you know, that's definitely a possibility. So, for sure. And so, Nintendo has you know, they've skipped a lot of 2020. 2020 has moved on to 2021 already. All these games are moving to 2021, including Nintendo's first party games. They're not doing much here. They're kind of like, you know, putting a big buffer in between them and PlayStation 5. So let's be honest, PlayStation 5 is the big kahuna on the block here with the most attention. PlayStation 5 has the most attention as far as hype is concerned out of all the consoles. So, in fact, in history, they said on the internet, it's the most like popular, most hyped, most viewed console, next-gen console in history. So it's pretty huge. So Nintendo, I get, you know, has moved everything away from PlayStation 5 big time. Yeah, I didn't say 4K native. Okay, yeah, you know how it goes. Just make it look good on your 4K TV, right? That's all we want. So yeah. Also, like I said, all I've been doing on this channel since 2019, 2018 has been reporting the information, the real information that's out there. And just like what's on the printed screen is what I report. So all this talk of revisions, hey, this is a Switch revision. There's no report. None of these reports said Switch revision, not once. None of these reports ever referred to as a Switch Pro either. So if people say, hey, is this rumored revision not happening? It never was even reported on in the first place, guys. I hope, you know, people are clear on that. It never was reported as a Switch Pro. It never was reported as a Switch revision. It was speculated and assumed that it was. And I think people convinced themselves that it was, but it never was actually reported on by these companies as being a Switch Pro or a Switch revision. It was always referred to as a next generation Switch as far back as early 2019 from that Nikkei report that Nintendo was working on a next generation Switch full model upgrade to be coming out later on. And then we had the article in early 2020 from Digitimes that Nintendo was preparing to launch a new Switch with those, you know, enhancements and everything that we talked about at the second half of 2020. And who knows what happened with COVID-19 and, you know, all the pandemic things that happened like there. Maybe Nintendo did plan for it at first, and everything has been just skipped and pushed far back. As we know, things have been really bad this year for developers. That's another thing. Drifting must be fixed. Drifting is really bad. Joycon Drift is horrible. So there's a lot there going on with Nintendo that they have not shown. We got Metroid Prime 4, we got Breath of the Wild 2, we got Bayonetta 3, we have Doom Eternal, we have Bravely Default 2, we have No More Heroes 3, we have, and obviously games they haven't even announced yet. Everything is not coming in 2020. Everything has been pushed away, pushed far away. So it makes sense that they would be lining that up. Monster Hunter Rise also, obviously, is next year as well. So it makes sense that they would be lining up a lot of these things for that new console introduction. All the hype right now is with the other companies as far as internet hype is concerned. Sales, we'll wait and see, of course, but sales, obviously, they've been selling out. Pre-orders are selling out right away. So it's going to be interesting. Metroid Prime 4 probably, like I said, isn't coming out until 2022, is my guess. And we'll have to wait and see about that. But I think we'll definitely be seeing Metroid Prime 4 in 2021, like maybe early 2021 even. I think it'd be a definite, pretty much guarantee we'll see that game next year. Like, you can almost see it right now in your mind just by imagining it. So, it's really cool what's going on, and this year is just a skip year. I think this year is worse than 2018 for Nintendo. To be honest with you, it has nothing for me to play. As a gamer, really, for the Switch. I'm playing the PlayStation 4 and PC a lot, but I'm not playing much on the Switch, even though I did buy some games on it this year. Too many ports, too many old games, too many rehashes. They're still stuck in that Xbox 360 generation of how they are developing games. Like the Wii U, the Wii U was their last console, right? So they're still porting Wii U games in 2020. I mean, I'm ready. I think I'm ready for something new, right? So, can you please talk about Metroid Prime Trilogy after? If you think it's going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. And possibly it could be launching on this new Switch as well. Let's talk about Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4. This channel has had a lot of updates on Metroid Prime 4 in 2020. I'm looking at my videos here. Thank you, by the way, for watching them and subscribing to the channel for Metroid Prime 4 content. There'll be more coming, of course. I have September was the biggest month in this channel's history. Over 500,000 views of my channel in September. That's like the biggest I've ever had in the history of this channel. So thank you guys for subscribing and liking the videos. So Metroid Prime 4, biggest game ever. most wanted game for me personally. You guys are probably the same, right? So Metroid Prime 4, I can't wait to play it, can't wait to see it. Very hyped for it. I watched all your vids. Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming. So, yeah, Metroid Prime 4, man. We started covering that game little by little. It was going on. Let's go back. I'm looking at my channel here, Metroid Prime 4 videos. We started doing it more in the end of 2019. There was some content there that happened with the development of Metroid Prime 4. They started talking about how they were, like when they first delayed the game, I did a video on that, which was heavily disliked because I was upset. Because I said that was just a terrible move that they didn't give it to Retro Studios in the first place. Thankfully, they saved the game from complete disaster and gave it to Retro Studios at all, which is great. I'm thankful they didn't release the game that way. So we can be thankful for that. But then I found some information online about Metroid Prime 4. Let me move this over here. Back in the end of 2019, they started talking about how they were developing new graphics technologies. They're using technology that wasn't used on the Switch in conjunction with development of this game. And Retro Studios actually updated their profile as for them as a company, saying that they are a AAA, cutting edge developer for Nintendo that specializes on Nintendo's cutting edge next generation devices. And I was like, huh, okay. Well, Nintendo hasn't really necessarily released a next generation device, and but what did we keep hearing about? We keep hearing about this next generation Switch that Nintendo could be working on. So here we have Retro Studios using all these like PBR, physically based rendering. They're using dynamic lighting. They're using all kinds of upgraded effects in their job profiles that they're hiring for. Things that are not used normally on Switch games that I could tell, like AAA big budget stuff. I'm like, wow, they're using some really high technology stuff. Then sure enough, at the end of 2019, I found that they hired some people that worked on Crysis, worked on Killzone. I was like, dude, wow, they're really going crazy with development here on this game. They're really going all in, like big time. And it was building up steam, right? And then we talked about more on that, of course, throughout the year. More hirings, and they hired people from Battlefield. They hired people from Borderlands, Tomb Raider, Star Wars Battlefront, they hired onto development. Call of Duty, and it's like, man, what is going on? This game's crazy. Have never seen. There's never been a hiring spree like this for a company to make one game for Nintendo ever. And then we went on from there, and then they talked about hiring for the God of War developer. It's like, wow, God of War. God of War on PS4 you're talking about one of the best looking games of all time, if not the best graphics I've ever seen. If you ever played God of War on PS4, on PS4 Pro, yeah, it's 30 frames per second, but the game might just have the best graphics ever. No joke. So, Metroid Prime 4 got that developer. Then we had the biggest update yet, which was a few weeks ago. They're actually hiring now for basically pre-alpha testing of this game. They're hiring 3 different product testers to test Metroid Prime 4 and to get it running and to test the levels and to play through the game and everything. So it is really building up, picking up steam. They also, at the same time, which I didn't cover, talked about the story. They're hiring some people for storyboards on Metroid Prime 4 and focusing on emotion, conveying emotion in the cutscenes. So that was really cool as well. I didn't cover it in a video, but we can talk about it here. One interesting thing about game development, if you noticed, I don't know how old you guys are in the chat, but if you go back to, thanks, the average Dro, nice name. If you go back to Tomb Raider, let's use Tomb Raider as an example. Tomb Raider, I got my Doom shirt on, by the way. Tomb Raider is 35, cool. Tomb Raider is a great example of character development over time. So, Lara Croft. Let's compare Lara Croft a little bit to Samus. So, Lara Croft, back on the PS1, she was pretty much a very straightforward character. She had some lines of dialogue and everything like that. The story was okay and everything, but it was more straightforward. We didn't get really too deep into Lara Croft as a person. She was a very polygonal character, and the game was very straightforward 3D action platforming and shooting and things like that, right? So, anybody telling me your age? So what has happened to Samus? So Samus has had some weird character development, but then going back to Lara Croft, though, look what's happened to Lara Croft with Tomb Raider. You had the Tomb Raider like reboot in 2013. You had Rise of the Tomb Raider. You had Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and you had some really deep inner character development. She cried. She went crazy. She lost her temper. She had deaths and relationships and everything. And Lara Croft went through this big change, really deep character building. So, if Retro Studios is this next generation developer, as they claim to be, working with cutting edge technology, they're one of the top tier developers. Obviously, they've hired people from God of War. They've hired people from Call of Duty, Tomb Raider, all those games we talked about. What type of game are they going to be producing here? Thanks for the super chat. But I think I missed a super chat earlier. I need to go back and look. I'm sorry, guys. If I missed a super chat earlier, I apologize. I think someone sent me something. I was having internet problems. Let me know who it was, and I'll let you know. XCal, thanks for the $5 super chat. I'm really hoping they bring at least Metroid Prime Trilogy to the current Switch. Even if I have to buy a next-gen Switch for Prime 4, possibly make 4 cross-gen. We'll have to wait and see. They should bring Metroid Prime Trilogy to the original Switch, in my opinion, because that could whet the appetite for the fans to go and buy Metroid Prime 4, whether if it's on the new Switch or the current Switch. Because Metroid Prime 4 does need that boost in sales, right? It's how long has it been? It's been 13 years since the last Metroid Prime game, so it's been a really long time. Thank you, by the way, XCal, for the super chat. Like I said, if someone sent me another one, let me know. I didn't see it. I thought I saw something, but so Metroid Prime Trilogy, I do think will happen. Obviously, it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. They have to release it. It can't be that dumb, right? To not release those 3 games before Metroid Prime 4. Anyway, what was I saying? Metroid Prime 4, yes. Character development. If they want to make you have emotion, like story-driven, emotion-based atmosphere in Metroid Prime 4, they're going to have to do something they haven't done before with Samus, and that will be actually diving deeper into the character herself. And I'm not talking about Metroid Other M. Dave, there's a super chat very early in the stream. Okay. Well, I'm sorry if I missed it, guys. I was having some issues there. So, yeah. Character development of Samus, I think, is going to happen because of how they're all the cinematic, like stuff they're doing with the game, and all the attention to detail they're doing, and then the storyboard job hiring they have to actually put more emotion into the cinematics could be hinting at something more of a deeper character development for Samus. And Metroid Other M, I hope, was an example of what they should not do. This melodramatic, corny, overly emotional, stuff. That's not what we want. We want something that is more like Samus, deep, how Samus is now, or how she is deep to the core. Not like this backstory of how she was when she was younger and all this stuff, and drama and stuff like that. No. Hopefully they learn their lesson from that. So that'll be interesting to see. So I'm very interested to see like this cutting edge stuff that Retro Studios has been working on with their software, and what hardware they actually are using to create this game, because obviously we can't confirm or deny anything on this channel as far as what they're using technology wise as to what the hardware is, but it doesn't seem like they're using Switch hardware to make this game. It seems like they're targeting something else. And if it's 2022, then the game obviously is going to be targeting this new Switch that's been talked about and rumored and reported on for the last 2 years. So yeah, and keep it nice in the chat, guys. No fighting. Everyone wants everyone to be successful, right? So I would like Xbox, even though Xbox is hated on a lot by people, I would like Xbox to be successful, to be competitive. I would like, Nintendo and everybody. The more success there is in gaming, the better it is for us. So it's all good for us if there's more success for everybody. It keeps us playing games. It keeps us going, and it keeps the industry thriving. All right, so let's see here. I got okay. Let's see. 1 second. So for Nintendo and their limited game situation, they could be holding out for this March 31st date as well because of this new Switch coming. You know what I mean? Like they could be having a virtual console on this new Switch, and they're going to re-release all these games like Fire Emblem and the Mario Collection after March 31st on this new virtual console that they could be having on this new Switch. It's a possibility, because why else would they keep stopping with digital games if they don't have another plan in mind? That doesn't make any sense, right? Tiger has game. Thank you for your videos and your hard work. Keep it going. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Oh, you timed them out? Okay. Yeah, so yes, it's maddening. Like Nintendo's a company that doesn't talk to its fans. It doesn't talk clearly to its fans. Big, that's very bad. That's very bad. Nintendo needs to talk to its fans and communicate what their plans are, but they want you to spend their money. They're a big corporation, and they're greedy. I just wish they would hide it more than what they do. It's very obvious what they're doing here. They're trying to get you to force you to spend money that you shouldn't have to be forced in that way. They should communicate. I mean, I don't think anybody has a problem with buying these games, but when you put the time limit on them, it makes you think they're doing something just out of money and greed. And that's not what we want to be seeing as consumers. We want to be clearly spoken to and know what their plans are. But since they don't do that, it's very frustrating as a Nintendo fan. I mean, I'm sure you agree. Joycon Drift is another huge problem they will not address. Again, speculation is that they could be waiting to introduce a new Joy-Con with this new Switch, which could be in a couple months. And they're saying, just hold on. To themselves, they're saying this. They're saying, hold on, fans, don't go crazy. Don't send us too many lawsuits. We're gonna get you a new Joy-Con. Don't you worry. But the problem is that they don't communicate with their fans, and it's very, very bad. You need to tell your fans, you need to tell your consumers, not just your fans, your consumers, that your product is going to be fixed. They won't acknowledge it. Furukawa kind of acknowledged it a little bit. Oh yeah, some people have had problems. Sorry about that. Just talk to customer service, but they need to address that problem like straight up and say, hey, we're releasing a new Joy-Con. This fixes everything. Of course, since they have all these lawsuits, they can't talk about it necessarily publicly. So what do? You just ignore it and hope it goes away. And man, that's just really bad as far as how the how these developers are, Nintendo corporations, how they work. Because how do you do business like that? I mean, if you, it's like a catch-22, right? As a corporation, if you talk about it, that means you're admitting you have a design flaw, and maybe you need to recall how many Joy-Cons are out there, like 100 million Joy-Cons probably, because 65 million Switches, 2 Joy-Cons per Switch. That's like at least 130 million Joy-Cons out there, plus people who have bought them multiple times. So maybe 150 million Joy-Cons have been purchased. Can you imagine a recall of that magnitude? Like 150 million Joy-Cons need to be recalled, and we'll give you brand new ones. I can see why Nintendo, when you look at the financial aspect of it, would be quiet, because that is like the red ring of death, even more so like a disaster for Nintendo, complete, utter catastrophe. So I can't imagine at this point them saying anything. Apex Legends has been delayed till 2021. I think they said sometime in 2021. Obviously, you can think about why they're doing that. New Switch, right? I mean, how much logic do you need to use to connect the dots? Like, gamers aren't stupid, right? People aren't that dumb. You can connect 2 and 2 together, or add 2 and 2 together, and say, hey, a new Switch is coming in 2021, early 2021. Everything ends for Nintendo on March 31st with all these digital games, and then all these games are being pushed back to early 2021, who are supposed to be coming out in 2020. People aren't that dumb. They can put 2 and 2 together. Whether somebody wants to say, no, that's just a coincidence. Hey, if it's just a coincidence, I listed like 6 or 7 games that were delayed till 2020 to 2021 earlier in the stream. If that's just a coincidence, and all those are affected just for the Switch, and then all those games are just happen to be coming out early next year, when this new Switch just happens to be coming out and rumored to be coming out early next year, I mean, it's not that big of a stretch. So that is probably why, honestly, I'm just being honest with you, that's probably why they're doing it. As far as their digital timed releases are concerned, they probably have most likely, let's just be honest, they probably have a plan to put those games as a separate either purchase as far as Mario is concerned, or to put them on the Nintendo Online service and introduce another tier of Nintendo 64 and GameCube games or Wii games on the Switch Online service in April 1st, the start of the next fiscal year. So yeah, let me see here. Let me see here what's going on here. All right. Anyway, so yeah, Birdman. I think Nintendo could use a Tegra Volta for the Switch Pro, but I think the next Switch is going to use the 380 GPU tech and their more CUDA cores for DLSS 2.0. Birdman. So yeah, just to be clear, like I said earlier, there is no Switch Pro rumor out there. There's no reports of a Switch Pro. There's no reports of a Switch revision. All the reports have been next-gen Switch. Even the report today called it a next-gen Switch. One thing I want to make clear, though, PlayStation 4 Pro technically was a next-generation PlayStation, even though it was still a PlayStation 4. It was using Vega technology in the PlayStation 4 Pro, whereas the PlayStation 4 original console was using the Southern Islands GCN Generation 1 back from 2012 in its 2013 released hardware. So technically, technology-wise, for a mobile console, whatever Nintendo releases is in a mobile sense is going to be a next generation Switch. It doesn't matter what it is, because in a mobile aspect, next generation, they come out every year with new devices. So a next generation Switch, it's going to be a next generation Switch regardless of what they call it, because of technology, how it has advanced. Whatever new chip they use from 2019, 2020 time range, whatever they use for this new Switch is going to be a next generation Switch. But marketing wise, I can almost guarantee you Nintendo won't name it next gen Switch. They're not going to name it Switch 2. They're going to call it Switch something else, just not Switch U, right? They'll call it Super Switch, or they'll call it Switch X, or they'll call it Switch something, but they're not gonna probably call it Switch 2, is my guess. I could be wrong, but they're gonna try to make it seem like it's a family thing, like part of the same family of devices, but it's gonna have obviously a next generation mobile tech inside of it. It's cutting edge. Whatever's cutting edge is next generation, right? Cutting edge means the newest technology. So it doesn't mean something from 2016 or 2017 or 2018 necessarily. It means something brand new that you're going to be using for this new Switch. What they call it is their choice. We don't know, but reports are saying next generation Switch. And what people write in forums, and on podcasts and talk about it amongst themselves, referring to this as a revision, that's not what the reports say. So everything you see on my channel is based on real information, real reports, and you can think for yourself about them and judge for yourself what you want about the information. I'm just providing it for you straight up and accurate from the reports. Nothing is made up on this channel. There's no made up stuff about this new Switch. It's all been accurately reported with proof in my videos. I have I put screenshots there. I put links in the description in case the links get removed. I usually put the screenshots on the in the videos themselves, so you can see the proof for yourself that I'm not making anything up here. So it's as far as what Nintendo calls it, it's up to them, but it is going to be a next generation Switch in terms of technology, because that's how mobile chips work. Like Apple releases the iPhone 12 this year. Guess what? Their next generation iPhone is going to be the iPhone 13 the following year. That's just how mobile technology works. Extremely unlikely. My guess would be 1080p on the go. And if they're using like advanced AI upscaling, like the DLSS technology that we've been talking about, then they could technically output the games at 1080p on the screen, but they would be, internally rendered at like 540p, for example. You wouldn't tell the difference. That's what that technology does, and it would look extremely crispy and nice on the screen for you. Daniel's Hot Topics. Is that a store or something? So when is Metroid Prime 4 coming out, and when do you think we may get a Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Switch? I hope so. I miss Metroid Prime. I love that game. Yes, I think Metroid Prime Trilogy is next year, and I think Metroid Prime 4 is 2022. I think that's a safe bet for now. I do think Metroid Prime Trilogy will be upgraded, have improved graphics, and because they have to, right? Those games are really old at this point. All the textures are. I mean, I play those games to death. The textures are really, really outdated, especially on Metroid Prime 1. I can't play. I can play, but it's hard to play those games without having like texture mods and things like that installed in them. So definitely look forward to Metroid Prime Trilogy sometime, hopefully in 2021. I don't see why they would not release it next year. It's 3 games, and Metroid Prime 4 is really close to being, ramping up to be shown next year. So it makes sense to have Metroid Prime Trilogy to be released next year, and then Metroid Prime 4 in 2022, and then we'll have that build up of information on Metroid Prime 4 as we go continually. You know what I mean? Like, what was it? Twilight Princess? I think that's a good example. That was shown for like 2 years before it was finally released. E3 2004, it was introduced on the GameCube. Then it wasn't released until holiday 2006 on the Wii and GameCube. So Metroid Prime 4 is going to have at least 6 to 8 months of previews and in-depth footage. Most definitely, my guess is next year. Then we're going to have constant, barrages of information, and then we'll keep having more videos on this channel covering everything leading up to the game being released. Then, of course, we'll play it on this channel, hopefully, and then we'll I'll do a let's play or something like that. Okay, 1 second here. All right, another reset there on the stream. Hopefully that's better there. I won't stay for too much longer here, but we're trying to get through it. So yeah, so we have a lot to look forward to, and obviously PS5 and Xbox Series X coming out this year. Lots of games being delayed. PS5 had a delay also today. What was that? All Stars, that demolition game, got delayed until 2021. That was supposed to be a PS5 launch game. Xbox Series X has had Halo delayed till who knows when, end of 2021. So lots of delays going on. This year has been really bad for games in terms of making their things on schedule. And Nintendo is no different. The Switch has had countless delays. I can't keep track of all the delays now. And if they did plan to have a new Switch in 2020, they probably forfeited that idea back in March when COVID-19 hit, and they had to most likely move all their production facilities that they're making their parts in out to Taiwan. Taiwan is like the main place that we've been hearing about. To have a cutting edge new like mobile Switch to be developed outside of China that you've been working with for so many years, that takes a lot of effort. So no doubt all these pieces as well are being put together from different areas in the world, and it's going to take more effort, probably a few more months time than it would have taken for like a PlayStation 5 home console or Xbox Series X, which was well ready in advance, most likely, at least for the Xbox Series X. So Switch is a little bit more complicated. They're testing all these different screens and everything. No doubt they have, like we've been talking about, this mini LED that they could be using here. And like we brought out earlier in this live stream, that Sharp could still be involved in providing the exo screen display technology for Deluxe, because they work together. They're like partners, actually. They became partners back in 2016, like I brought out back then, earlier in this live stream. So really cool stuff to look forward to for Nintendo. Yeah, so all these things, it's kind of like you can see it all happening. If you think about it, you can see everything happening right, as we go. You can see why like March 31st is this date that Nintendo keeps saying things are going to end on this date. You know, you could kind of see why with these reports of a new Switch coming. You can see why with all these delays of games moving to 2021. You can see why with COVID-19 and the pandemic and delays for all consoles to moving to 2021. So it's crazy. And again, there's no, if Nintendo does call this thing a Switch 2, for example, there's nothing wrong with that either. I doubt it, but if they do call it that, I don't think anybody's going to care. It would be 4 years after the original Switch came out. Plus, Nintendo would need to have a system that is on the market at the same time as the original Switch. They can't just like cut one Switch completely off and have you wait for another Switch to come. They can't do that because Switch is all they have. So they need to have basically overlapping consoles. So you have a Switch that's out for 3 years, and then by the 4th year you have another upgraded one come out to pick up the slack and have that, you know, pick up that hot sales for another, 3 to 4 years, and you have another overlapping one after that, more variants, different types of Switch consoles. Maybe you have a Switch console that only docks, you know what I mean, like just like a slim variant console, which was rumored actually earlier this year that they were doing that. Basically just have the same chip, just put it in like a slim little console you just plug into your TV and that's it. They could sell that for like $250, that kind of stuff. Lots of ideas. There's lots of things they can do, and it's all about making money for Nintendo. And whether or not they want to include this new Switch in the install base numbers for the current Switch, that's up to them. I don't think it matters. Oh, they have, like fans. Like what I try to do on this channel is separate the fanboyism from the information. So, to Nintendo, all that matters to them is just making money and pushing, their hardware and pushing their install base for whatever they're selling. So whatever they do, it's going to be up to them to continue pushing their sales. They want to sell 20 million a year. Whatever they want to do to do that, they're going to make it happen. Okay. I can't pronounce some of your names. Kroniak? Any thoughts on Michael Pachter about Nintendo ditching the Switch hybrid? Yeah, I think he's off base. That's not going to happen. Like, not a chance. They may release a Switch console that only docks, but they're not going to ditch the hybrid aspect. There's not a chance. It's too much of a win-win for Nintendo. That's like the main selling point of the Switch. Selling a Switch Lite is basically like selling a 3DS, or selling not even a 3DS. 3DS had dual screens, but selling a Switch, just a Switch Lite by itself, it's like a PS Vita. There's nothing super exciting about it. Plays a bunch of indie games, niche JRPGs. That's exactly like the Vita. That would be what the Switch Lite would turn into, because it wouldn't get next gen games. It would defeat the purpose of the Switch. So yeah, I don't think so. Who is Pachter? He's an old-time analyst that has been wrong countless times on his takes on gaming, which is weird. It's just weird why the people always use him as a punching bag for gaming takes, because he's always wrong, so you might as well not even use him. So I don't know. I don't care personally. Let's see. Super Switch, Switch Advance, simply and functionally Switch 4K. Very smooth. No? Nah. I mean, Switch 4K is not gonna. I don't think that's gonna happen until maybe the next Switch. Or maybe they'll have. Obviously, the technology will allow them to, if they really want to, PCIe Express or PCI Express will allow them technically, if they really want to, and the next iteration of USB will allow them to have additional graphics processing added, like a supplemental computing device like we talked about on this channel. I don't think they'll do that because they can make more money to selling new variants of new consoles as they go. But technically, they could do that. I just don't think they will at this point. I don't look too good? Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's see. Thunderbolt. Yeah. DS Lite. Let's see. Switch Advanced. I don't know about that one. I don't know if they'll do that. But yeah, Switch Plus. It's hard to say. They could call it whatever they want, as long as they don't call it something just extremely like unusable, like Nintendo Switch U, or even New Switch would be technically fine, but Switch U, I don't know. You're voting for Switch U, yeah. Switch Vitality Sensor. Let's see. Let's recap a little bit here. Yes. Mini LED would be really, really good. And they talked about, I know that since it's new technology, it would be kind of expensive, but they did say in that video I showed earlier that not necessarily would be that expensive as going forward. Like, it just came out, I think in this year actually, or maybe it was last year. I don't have the exact date, but it came out recently. So it would be a way they could save battery life, like they've been talking about. The mini LED, they could save battery life and get an OLED type of display on this new Switch. So yeah, Switch Up is what that concept that everyone uses now. Back, for displaying this new Switch, everyone uses that Switch Up concept art by that guy who did it. So shout outs to him for making that. It's by far the best looking new Switch variant that they have, right? As far as concept art's concerned, it's not going to look like that, obviously. Let's see what you guys are saying. Hi, I'm here to pick up a Switch. Do you want a new Switch? Oh, okay. You're making jokes. Yeah, there's no reason really that they don't have to go for 4K necessarily, so they don't really have to do that to have a successful console. 1080p upscale to 4K would be just fine. But the problem right now is the current Switch can't even do 1080p, and that's its native resolution. So if you have a console that's native resolution is 1080p and it can't do 1080p, then the Switch needed an upgrade like since day one. Since that was the case, it couldn't even. Most games won't even do 1080p on the console, so it's rough. As far, and especially these ports are concerned, like you had the Outer Worlds, which looked like garbage. They patched the game, and basically they had to downgrade some other things to make it look better in other areas. Like, you have a balancing act here with these Switch ports that you're only going to fix when it's all said and done with a new console, and I think they know that at this point. The excitement is with new next generation technology, SSD technology. The Switch also loads very, very slow. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of games load even slower than PlayStation 4 does. So that needs to be fixed big time with the new Switch. Switch can run Crysis, yeah, barely. But it actually can run it better than the PS4 version and Xbox One version in some areas. Like, there's lots of glitches in that game. But yeah, that's another story. Switch needs lots of extra love in development for it. So, again, the Switch is based on 2015 technology. It's not based on something brand new anymore. It's even then when it came out, it was 2 years old, and it's. What the Switch is basically an experiment that went well. So Nintendo used off-the-shelf parts, right? Off-the-shelf parts, and they put together the Switch with NVIDIA putting an off-the-shelf part Tegra X1 processor. It's the same exact chip. Of course, they used a revision of that chip to help with piracy and, of course, the battery life for the 2019 revision. That was a legit revision that wasn't really even rumored. It was like rumored real briefly for like a couple weeks, and that was it. But that wasn't the Switch that was being reported on as they're being developed for a couple years now. So they released that revision, and that's basically it. But it's basically an off-the-shelf Tegra X1 processor that they've been using since the beginning, and that's it. So the Switch is a very successful experiment that has most likely blew Nintendo's expectations away as far as its sales are concerned. So now they can go ahead and use cutting-edge technology. What was it? They had what was it, like $800 million of R&D they spent this last year. What are they spending that on just buying more stock chips? No, they're researching and developing new technologies, cutting-edge technologies as they brought out for new hardware, and they're going to be putting all the gusto and all the good stuff in this new Switch that we've been discussing for the past couple years, and we can see it all happening before our eyes. It's really cool. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that. And Metroid Prime 4 is going to be right there as a showcase title, no doubt, for this new Switch they're working on as well, right? It's kind of cool how when you think about it, the new Switch is in conjunction with Metroid Prime 4. It's going to be like something they can use to sell you both things. So they can sell you this new Switch, and they can sell you a Metroid Prime 4 by using the new Switch to display the new things they have in development with Metroid Prime 4 with this new Switch. It's a win-win situation. So when you see me cover Metroid Prime 4, you can think about that as well. That no doubt, most likely we're going to be playing this on a new Switch when it does release in 2022. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, by then, either way, it's going to be a new Switch out. Nintendo doesn't ever just keep one system on the market, and the Switch Lite and Switch OG are the same exact console. They just have different form factors, but it's the same exact chip, basically. And I know that the original, I think the Switch Lite variant has part of its die like cut off or something like that because it doesn't dock to the TV. I forgot exactly how it was, but it's the same chip, just slightly modified so it doesn't dock. So it's the same thing. So Nintendo doesn't really do that kind of stuff. They haven't had just one console on the market since the NES for a few years, and then even then, like 4 years later, they released the Game Boy, and ever since then they've had something coming out consistently to keep people buying their hardware. So it's exciting. I expect them to do the exact same thing here. Isn't Nintendo's philosophy against cutting-edge graphics? Not really. That only has been the case since the Wii. So that's 2006. So the last 14 years, Nintendo has been, quote-unquote, against cutting-edge graphics. But since the NES, they've always have tried to have one of the top or leaders in the console market every generation. NES was, of course, the best of the 8-bit generation as far as technology-wise. People argue that the Mega Drive, whatever, was better, or the what was it, the Master System? I forgot the name of it. But NES was good enough. Was basically people developed for it. It was good enough for what it could do. And then SNES was cutting edge at the time for 16-bit. Nintendo 64 was bleeding edge at the time. GameCube was bleeding edge at the time, and then of course they went way back and with the Wii and didn't go for that since 2006 because they said that, hey, this strategy of going for power is not working. But their mistake was actually the functionality of the GameCube. Having those mini discs was limiting the storage space in the games. It was making it a hard time for developers to put their games on the system. Didn't have DVDs, didn't have online. All those things played a part in it not selling just a little bit less than Xbox, the original Xbox. But it wasn't, power is not necessarily the reason why something fails. I don't think power is ever a reason why something fails. It's always something else as the reason why something fails. Having a powerful console isn't why something would fail. It's other things involved, right? PlayStation 4 was the most powerful of when it first came out, and it was the most successful. PlayStation 3 was had some issues with it as far as how it was designed, but technically it was considered more powerful than Xbox 360. And towards the end, I believe the PS3 actually outsold the Xbox 360 by a little bit at the very, very end worldwide, but not in the United States. Xbox 360 won, but I could be wrong. I think they were both neck and neck at the end, but the Wii, of course, outsold them both. That was like, you know, hey, we're selling to everybody and to your grandma and everybody like that. PS2 was the least powerful, but it wasn't the least powerful. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like the bottom of the barrel powerful. It was just less powerful than GameCube, but not way more. It's a little bit less powerful than GameCube. It sold 156 million consoles, the highest of all time. So Nintendo 64 was the most powerful console at its time versus PS1, but it sold way worse, not because of its power. Power had nothing to do with it. Because of the cartridges, like you said, like Lucius Thomas said, the cartridges killed it. Absolutely, that killed that console. If it would have had CDs, that thing would have sold 100 million easy, like no problem. It would have had Final Fantasy VII. It would have had all the Final Fantasy games. If they would have had a CD drive, game over. PlayStation 1 may have not have even been a success if N64 had a CD drive. Thanks to Nintendo not working with Sony, they created a monster, which was the PlayStation. Even though overall I enjoyed the Nintendo 64 games more so than PlayStation, PlayStation had all the games. Even though a lot of them looked like garbage at the time, even back then in the 90s, I thought they looked bad. They had great third-party support, like the best there possibly was. Nintendo had all the great first-party support, and Sony was like, okay, what, you know, you want Tomb Raider, you want PlayStation, you want Metal Gear Solid, you want, you know, these games, you come to PlayStation. And then like, well, you know, they kind of built themselves up after that, and then PlayStation 2 took off with it. And Nintendo 64 had these amazing games, but you only got like 1 or 2 amazing games per year, and that was it, you know. But they were amazing games. Really weird time. And then Nintendo had to kind of pick up the pieces after that, because then PlayStation ran away with it, the PlayStation 2. Then they're like, okay, we got to rethink our strategy. Here comes the Wii. We got to do something disruptive, you know, and we got to like really change everything up. And people were like, whoa, okay, whoa, Nintendo, what's this, you know, waggle stuff? Wow. And then they played that out to death until they completely killed it. Nobody cared about waggle anymore in 2011. Then the Wii U came out. Let's continue doing that and kind of sort of, and then make the gamepad and blah. No, didn't work out. They had to, yeah. I really like the Wii U a lot. I love the Wii U, but the way they handled the system as far as how they designed it and the technology they used, they actually had to cut down the graphics processing of it to get the gamepad to work with it. It was all very expensive. They cut down the tech just enough on the Wii U that it could not get PS4 ports, which is the same issue that Nintendo still has with the Switch. So here we are, finally, in 2020, Nintendo is looking for cutting-edge technology because they see the importance of the Switch concept, and now mobile technology has in fact caught up in a lot of ways with standalone consoles and dedicated console devices that plug into your TV. Mobile chips can in fact do a lot of that due to the technology advances that we've seen in the past few years. We have tablets now that are pushing 2 teraflops. We have DLSS technology that can up-res and upscale native rendered 540p, 480p images to 1080p, 4K, and they look very close and very good on 4K TVs. So it's really where we're at right now for mobile technology is exciting. And I think Nintendo knows that, which is why they're talking about cutting edge technology right now, because it makes sense now for them to finally go there, because they can be the quirky, fun Nintendo still. They can do all that stuff and still have a much more powerful Switch, right? Power has nothing to do with success as far as failure is concerned. It can't be too powerful because it can't run. If it does that, then it'll get exclusive games. That's exactly what Nintendo has always done. Game Boy Color, exclusive games. The DSi, exclusive games. New 3DS, exclusive games. Nintendo's going to keep doing what Nintendo has always done, and to make money. And 3DS even had the entire virtual console of the SNES exclusive. So they're going to continue being Nintendo, and we're going to still probably buy their games, right? Because they make great games. Their business practices, suspect lately. But we have to wait and see what's going on here, even though it's difficult right now because they're not talking, right? That makes you upset as a gamer. Joycon Drift, digital games being limited, timed only. That's very frustrating as a fan. And to be honest, I've been playing PS4 and PC, like I said earlier. There's not much to play for me on the Switch right now, but there is hope for the future, which is exciting. And when we see reports like this of a new Switch with cutting edge technology and mini LED, new tech, things like that, DLSS, AI upscaling, future games, Metroid Prime 4, there's a lot to look forward to on Nintendo. Just not really right now in 2020. So we got, like we've seen so many times in forums and chats and everything, like, the sad reality is a lot of what Nintendo fans do is wait for a long time, but they are usually rewarded for waiting. It just takes a really long time sometimes, which is frustrating. So, so you guys have any more questions here before I go? I apologize for the technical difficulties. It did iron itself out here at the end. So to let me not be distracted by my internet, I couldn't think straight with all that internet stuff going on earlier. It was bad. But you have any more questions now that now we're here? Super Mario Bros. 3 is a masterpiece. Some people hate that game. I really liked it, but yeah. Mario Bros. 3 and Mario World is great. Chariot Man Gaming. I love the big game, but right now I'm on Stadia and I've been loving it or enjoying it. Wow. Stadia, huh? All right. Prime 4 VGC looking for a storyboard artist who can help. Yeah, I talked about that earlier. Emotional scenes. I talked about that earlier about character development. I compared it to Laura Croft, how they did her over the years, how they basically have focused on her character development a lot, and she's totally different now. You can see like way more about her character now than what they did on PS1, for example. With Samus, I would like to see them do something similar. Remember in Super Metroid, Lucius Thomas